So, Michael, we are hurtling towards Avengers Doomsday, which is being released this December, the first Avengers movie in 7 years, and there has reportedly been a leak of this came out like months ago of what is actually going to happen in the movie, and subsequently trailers and indeed the San Diego Comic-Con, which happened just last weekend, basically almost confirmed these details, and yeah, because everything that this leak says, well, what's happening in the movie, it all lines up. So I'm going to send you this leak, and you're going to read it. It'll take you about a minute to read it, and you're going to tell me how bad or maybe good you think this Avengers Doomsday movie might be. Does that sound good?
Yes. Yeah. I'm happy with your confidence in my reading speed. That you're like, take you a minute to read it. I am very fast, and I never stumble over my words.
Okay. Well, no, I don't want to I don't want you to read it out loud, Michael. I want you to read it
I think
yourself.
This is a challenge. Oh, I see. Just read it in my head. Okay, cool.
You and then I want you to get your reaction. Yeah.
I understand. Okay, cool.
Okay, have you got it?
Yes. All right, cool.
Okay, so you just read it. I'll go for a minute.
All right.
Okay, tell me when you're done.
Okay, yeah, we'll do. Okay, I got about a third left.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't think it would take you that long.
Honestly, right. It's really hard to read because of all the nonsense words. Okay.
Yeah, I'm keeping that in. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, I'm not quite. I'm just Okay. Okay. Cool. I felt like I was having a stroke.
All right.
Once I read the words Loki season 2, I was like, okay, I might be out of my depth with this one.
Yeah. So that leak could be wrong, of course, but like I said, the trailer and what's been released at San Diego Comic-Con, it seems to confirm a lot of these details may be in fact accurate. So yeah, Michael, what do you think? Do you think Avengers Doomsday is going to be a success?
Oh God. Obviously, the thing with Infinity War that genuinely was worth praising is that they were able to bring all of this crazy stuff together, and it worked. But it's worth noting at the time, the full extent of the crazy stuff in Infinity War was so much less than multiple universes with the X-Men. To answer the question we're in the middle of asking, no, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off here.
Yeah, when I saw that leak and I read it, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is fucking horrible. I mean, who knows? Maybe that is the leak and it'll be good, and maybe it's not at all, and the movie's completely different. But yeah, what if Avengers Doomsday is Doomsday for the MCU? How about that, huh?
Oh, there we go. That's it. Good line.
Great.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are celebrating, yes, probably some Marvel bullshit, but also we're celebrating the 40-year anniversary of the release of the movie Howard the Duck. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Howard the Duck?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Howard the Duck, of course, came out in 1986, so yeah, we're close to its 40-year anniversary. And
feels like just yesterday.
Exactly, and of course, a new Marvel movie has just come out, or is about to come out whenever this is uploaded. Spider-Man, I almost said Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man, what the fuck is it called? Brand New Day, that's what it's called.
Brand New Day, yeah, okay, yeah. I honestly, yes, wouldn't have remembered.
Yeah, Brand New Day, the first Spider-Man movie in 5 years, and of course, the movie that Marvel is hoping will reignite MCU Phase 4, is it? Are we in Phase 4 or Phase 5? I don't know, but Phase 4...
I think we're in Phase 5 because Phase 4 passed without, nothing happened in Phase 4 that was good. So,
yeah.
They were like, let's just start afresh with Phase 5.
So yeah, obviously, Spider-Man Marvel will be hoping Spider-Man just reignites the MCU because Spider-Man has been one of the best properties for the MCU recently. I say recently, obviously, in the last 10 years or so. So therefore, and because of, like I said in the opening, San Diego Comic-Con has just happened, and there was a bunch of Avengers Doomsday news, all very exciting if you like slop. So therefore, we thought, we'd go back and review the first ever Marvel movie, which was adapted from a comic book, which of course is the 1986 Howard the Duck movie.
Oh, God, I suppose that does make sense. Like, it's kind of crazy when you put it like that this was the first ever one, but then it's like, well, I guess actually, because honestly, 1986, that was pretty early in general as far as superhero movies are concerned.
Yeah, because they hadn't nailed the CGI, of course.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, they hadn't nailed it. Like, it was just in its infancy, of course.
Yes.
So yeah, as we see in this movie, so yeah, pretty hard to do superhero stuff or comic book movie stuff in general. But they gave it a go, Marvel, with Howard the Duck, and the results weren't great. So yeah, Howard the Duck released in the UK as Howard, a New Breed of Hero. Did you know that?
Oh, really? I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a 1986 American superhero comedy film directed by Willard Hayek and starring.
Mallard Hayek.
Yeah, that's great. It's written by Willard Hayek as well and Gloria Katz. If maybe if it was written by Gloria Duck, it would have been better. No, it's Katz with a K. And by the way, it's based on Howard the Duck by Steve Gerber. You, I think, are going to get into that in a bit, or the backstory between Marvel and Steve Gerber. Of course, this movie stars Leah Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, and Tim Robbins, among others.
Yes.
It was
Tim Robbins. This is probably the best movie Tim Robbins has ever been in. I will say that.
Yeah, this is going to be a lit pick of mine, but I'll say it right now. This was Tim Robbins' first movie.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was not Leah Thompson's or Jeffrey Jones's first movie. They had both been in better movies quite recently, actually. This movie was released on August 1st, 1986. We are so close to its 40-year anniversary, Michael. And can you tell me what the budget was for Howard the Duck?
No, but I'm gonna say, oh fuck, I don't know. I feel like maybe this movie was ridiculously expensive. Like 30. No, that's stupid. 20 million. I'm trying to think like 1980. I was gonna say 30 million.
Well, you'd be correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's $30 to $37 million. I don't know if that includes marketing, because obviously, it's normally just one number. But $30 to $37 million. Wow. And what about that? That is very expensive for the mid 80s. And what about the box office, Michael?
Oh God. So now I don't know. I almost feel like maybe this movie made more than you would think. But I don't really know what that ultimately means in practice. I'm gonna say this movie made 50 million. I mean, maybe it was like a huge bomb, but I'm just gonna say maybe I'm just gonna go on the off chance that actually it did better than you might think.
Yeah, not an awful guess. It did bomb at the box office because it only grossed $37.9 million. So again, it barely made back its budget. Probably not profitable. A disappointment at the box office, which is understandable given the movie. I'll just tell you, Michael, before I ask you whether you liked Howard the Duck, it has developed a cult following, would you believe?
That's just such a meaningless everything, yeah.
Yeah, in the years since, it has been considered among the worst films ever made, but also developed a cult following. That's part of the reason why we are reviewing it. But maybe you don't think it's one of the worst movies ever made, Michael. So tell me,
I don't.
Did you like Howard the Duck?
So I think I already communicated this to you in advance with I think I said that this movie made me want to kill myself, which is not quite true. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Ultimately, this movie it's kind of weird in that it's not. There's nothing about it's necessarily offensively bad. It's just kind of nonsense, and in a way, like you can, if you're not actually watching this movie, you can just think to yourself, "Oh, that movie seems like it would be kind of fun." Because it's, I mean, ultimately, when you actually think about what the movie really is, which we're going to get into, but about a duck from outer space that gets transported to Earth and starts a romance with this like rocking punk rock girl, and he becomes her manager, and also there's an interstellar demon involved. Like that sounds like it would be entertaining. So it's in that it's in that like area that certain movies do kind of find themselves in. I think especially in the late 20th century, I think about this. These movies which they came up with a good idea, and then they just didn't really flesh it out in a way that made it entertaining. And that's really the problem with this film. It's just, you get all of the nonsense which with none of the entertainment value that you'd think would be derived from it. That's my opinion, though.
Okay, so did I like Howard the Duck?
Yes.
Well, I actually kind of liked the first, I want to say, 40 to 50 minutes of the movie before it really got into the plot. I was watching it and I was like, you know what? I can understand why this movie has a cult following because it's ridiculous, it's absurd, and it's shit. But it is kind of fun. It did fall into the so bad it's good category. And yes, you are right. There was a bunch of nonsense in those first 40 minutes, but it was fun nonsense. There were some ridiculous scenes which just it made me laugh. However, after that, it's really just about the plot about Howard and this demon. As soon as they go to the lab, from then on, it's all about Howard and Beverly and Tim Robbins trying to defeat this demon villain. Who has come from outer space, and therefore it stops being so ridiculous because it's, like I said, it's just all about this plot. You don't have any scenes of Howard working in a brothel like he did right at the start.
Yeah,
the ending or the second half of the movie, to be more precise, is just really quite shit, and it is nonsense. Just like the first half, but it's a different kind of nonsense in the second half. It's plot-driven nonsense, which just isn't as fun.
Yeah, and it's darker nonsense.
And it's quite boring as well, to be honest. I was really excited, but not excited.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it about this movie after watching the first half. But then in the second half, I was like, oh my god, this is just bad. Just end this. It's unfortunate that the movie had a drop off. I'd say not in quality, but in entertainment, and of course that matters when watching a movie. So the first half is definitely more entertaining, even though it's just as bad as the second half. So Michael, tell me, do you have any nitpicks?
No, I don't actually.
Okay, do you have any lit picks?
I also don't.
Okay.
The thing is, again, like my weird Howard the Duck comic book story would be kind of a lit pick, but it's too big to be a lit pick.
Yeah,
so.
we're saving that because it's a great story.
Yes.
So my lit pick is this movie indirectly created Pixar, by the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, because George Lucas was one of the producers on this movie.
I did know that.
Yes, the executive producer. Which maybe explains why it was so bad. But of course, he had this company, which he had to sell because this movie flopped. So therefore, this company then got transformed into Pixar, which of course then went on to make all the movies that we know and love, such as Toy Story and Toy Story 5.
Yes.
So isn't that an interesting story?
No, yeah, I do like it. It's almost as interesting of a story as Toy Story or indeed Toy Story 5.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. So, Michael, let's get into the plot/premise of Howard the Duck.
Yes. A scientific experiment brings extraterrestrial life forms to the Earth through a laser beam. First is the cigar-smoking Drake, Howard from the Ducks planet. A few decades... What the fuck did I say decade? Where the fuck did that come from? I have no idea. I don't think there's decade written anywhere on my screen at all. A few kids try to keep him from the greedy scientists and help him back to his planet, but then a much less friendly being arrives through the beam. While several TV adaptations of Marvel characters were aired, this was the first theatrical release since the Captain America serial of 1944.
Yeah. So I don't know if you count that movie in 1944 as a proper theatrical release.
I'm more of a purist, so I wouldn't.
Some people would, some people wouldn't. And also, did you like the description too?
Oh no, yeah, sorry, yeah. It was a bit weird. I found it a bit weird that it said forms to the Earth. It's just Earth to me.
A few kids try to keep Howard from the greedy scientists. Which
I was also a bit confused by like greedy. I mean, I get it. Like, there's kind of they are, I guess, pretty greedy, those dirty scientists. But yeah, it's a bit weird.
Also, there isn't any kids in this movie.
Beverly, I was thinking that too. Like, I guess
Beverly isn't a kid. So I read that description again from the very legal website that I watch my movies on, and I was expecting a bunch of kids to show up and help Howard, but that just never happened. I was a bit confused. This movie, the plot of Howard the Duck, it's an 80s movie. It is what you'd expect, and it doesn't really lean into how absurd its premise is, because it's an 80s movie. They hadn't figured out how to do these kind of movies yet. I mean, it's unfunny, / funny, of course, in parts. The so bad it's good thing.
Yeah.
And I do think it should have been more so an adult movie, and less of an 80s family-friendly movie. Despite, of course, I say that it's an 80s family-friendly movie. They tried to make it more family-friendly, but still, there were some elements of the initial Howard the Duck cartoon, or the original Howard the Duck comic book. Sorry, I should say. Yeah, which remained in the final movie. But I guess it's not that dissimilar to another George Lucas movie, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which was
pretty violent.
Which was a kids movie, but was pretty violent. So I think you kind of have the same formula with this movie, even if it's much, much worse. And yeah, of course, the ending in particular, it just reminds me of every like shitties 80s / 90s movie, the way it ends, and all action movies aimed at kids or even slightly towards kids end like how this movie ended, and even something like E.T., for instance. I think you can see.
Yes, I was seeing that similarity, definitely.
Yeah, there are just similarities of like, oh yeah, we got to get away from the cops or the authority figures and do it ourselves and stop this
scientists.
Yeah, stop this disaster happening in one way or another. So yeah, again, very 80s / 90s ending, and it's a shame because I think if this was adapted properly, it could have actually been half decent. But they were because it was in the 80s. It was never going to be adapted properly. I think that is the issue, and I'll get into that more within the review. But yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, yeah, so actually, I haven't said this yet, but I do agree with kind of, I think, what you were getting at, which is that this film was more entertaining, or seemed like it was being more entertaining, when it was basically just about a duck trying to adapt to the real world. Because I think you were kind of saying, like, this idea that, obviously he's fucking, like, cleaning up at a strip club and that kind of stuff. And, like, that would definitely be better. And I also, I'm glad that you kind of agree with me that there was just something about the 80s, and like I say, I think it was even the 80s into the 90s, this thing where they'd come up with good ideas for movies, but when you actually watch them, you're like, I don't know if they had enough here. I recently watched the movie Free Willy, because I haven't ever seen that before, even though it's a really famous movie, and I was like, obviously everyone knows about the scene where the, Willy escapes. Willy's on the
killer
loose.
Whale crushes the kid, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And obviously everyone basically knows the premise, but let me tell you, having watched that movie, like, they really just, there's so much filler in the middle. I do feel like, maybe that's just a problem in general, but I feel like it's something that I notice more with like movies from the 80s and 90s, where I'm like, oh, that's an interesting premise. And I watch the movie, I'm like, wow, they really just kind of cookie cutted every single aspect of, and like you can tell they were just inspired by other similar movies. But yeah.
Yeah, because I think movies back then, certainly again aimed at kids, were more formulaic.
Kids were idiots.
Yeah, they stuck to a formula. Nowadays, I think you do get movies which are more experimental and a bit different. You just in general get less movies aimed at kids. Yeah. Of course, there's always going to be movies aimed at like 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, but there's not that many movies aimed at 10-year-olds specifically. I guess the Marvel movies, for instance, they would be...
even they're like aimed at adult nerds nowadays.
That's what I was going to say. They're aimed at 10-year-olds, but they're also aimed at like 30-year-olds,
Yeah.
It's not weird for 30-year-olds or even 40-year-olds to see the new Marvel movie, So that right there is the difference between now and, again, the 80s. But and so, yeah, I think this is a comic book movie with an anthropomorphic duck, so... The writers, the producers saw it and were like, well, of course we've got to make this a kids movie, sort of, and we got to make it a formulaic kids movie because that's just what you did back in the day.
Yeah.
Even though this movie would have been better if it wasn't like that as much, as we will get into. So, Michael, first though, before we get into the actual content of the movie, you're going to talk about why this was a live action movie and not an animated movie.
Yes, animation or live action, that's the question. The film was optioned by Universal after a partnership with Marvel Comics, according to Martin Antonovsky. Universal lobbied very hard for Howard the Duck, as the studio had passed on previous projects in which George Lucas was involved, which had been very successful. Writers Huyck and Katz strongly felt that the film should be animated, but since Universal needed a film for a summer release and thinking that animating the film would take too long or cost too much, Lucas suggested that the film could be produced in live action. That's interesting. I think this film would have been really... You know what? I hate to say this, but I think it's very obvious. You know who would have been really good at animating this film? Is the older Ralph Bakshi. Because, like, when you think about it, it's like a kind of, like, weird, strange, adult animated
Yeah.
movie with some kind of fantastical elements to it. They really missed missed the mark there.
I did, of course, say just previously that you do get more experimental movies that are released today, and movies which I think are more so aimed towards adults that maybe have a premise which you'd look at in the 80s and think, oh, that's a kid's premise, or that's a premise that's aimed at kids. But nowadays, that's that's not the case as much. Again, you do get movies which, again, just are a bit more different, which is good. But another era where that was the case, perhaps, was the 1970s.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think, that era was long gone by the mid 80s. And of course, that's where Ralph Bakshi made a lot of movies in the 70s, didn't he?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was his era. And also, I mean, people I think talk about like Hanna-Barbera and those kind of like the people who did like Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones and things like that. They were big in the 80s and the 70s. And I mean, actually, obviously people talk about because the 80s was when cartoons for kids started becoming just about product placement. So yeah, maybe there is like a legitimate argument for this idea that the 80s and the 90s, or certainly the 80s at least, was a dark day to be a kid.
But I think
a kid with any standards.
Yeah, if the Howard the Duck movie came out in the 1970s, it would have been truer to the comic book and more absurd. It would have lent into its absurdity. Probably would have been better, therefore, overall. And I think you could say the same if it came out in the modern day as well. But yeah, the 80s and the 90s, there was no chance that it was ever going to be good. So yeah, it's all Ronald Reagan's fault. The Reagan Revolution.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be family friendly, even though a movie like Howard the Duck should not be quote unquote family friendly, as we will get into. So, Michael, do you want to get into the script for Howard the Duck now?
Yeah, script on Duck World. Ooh. An Earth-like planet inhabited by anthropomorphic ducks, Howard the Duck is propelled out of his apartment building, and into outer space. He lands on Earth in Cleveland. I don't know. That's supposed to be Family Guy. I guess I can't do a Cleveland, Ohio. According to Katz, they did not want to explain how Howard arrived on Earth initially, but later rewrote the screenplay so the film would begin on Howard's homeworld. That's interesting, because I'm going to be honest, as I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, wait, why is he being taken to Earth? So I'm glad that they realized that I would not have tolerated that kind of thing being unexplained and just being left up to the audience.
But I don't know. Obviously, Howard wants to get back to his homeworld, and the whole second half of the movie, again, it's very plot-driven. It concerns how Howard, of course, came to Earth, and this device in the lab will allow him to get back to Earth, but it's also bringing this demon. So I don't know how you could have. The movie must have been completely different.
Yeah, they're like at the last minute, we decided to give this movie a plot. Like, wow.
Yes, but I think it would have been better without a plot. I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, that is a good point.
So, well, you wanted, Michael, to talk about Duck World now. This is your first talking point.
Yes. So, the thing about like Duck World is that we start off with all of these really ridiculous puns. And like obviously they have like Play Duck, which is obviously Playboy. I mean that's not even clever. They have like loads of movie posters in the background, and they're all kind of duck inspired movie posters. Most of these just aren't very impressive at all. The thing is, and look, oh yeah,
would you say it's really lazy? Is that what you'd say?
I would say it's really lazy. That's absolutely how it's like. That's the, especially like as comedy, because it's kind of, you think to yourself, are people supposed to laugh at that? I guess so, but like that's the thing. I mean, obviously, who really cares? But it's just you know that like they basically put that in there to be like, look, it's a joke. It's like Family Guy. It's like, look, it's a thing you recognize, but we made it ducky. Hey Lois, this reminds me of when I was the Duckinator. When Arnold Duckenegger was the Duckinator. I really had to work with that Duckenegger. I had to really put the emphasis on the E there.
That was close.
Yeah. I know, yeah, that was scary. But yeah, and the other thing about this is like, and this matters less, it has to be said, because obviously this movie is absurd. And I suppose, to be honest, actually, this could have been a nitpick now I think about it. This really should have been a nitpick, which is the fact that obviously this is a separate planet. We're told that very explicitly. So not another dimension, which just makes it very weird, because then this Duck World is basically exactly like human Earth including having the same human history up to the point of very similar movies being made, but everyone's a duck. Yeah, obviously, there's no logic to it. It's just especially weird. Maybe they thought like extra dimensions were just too crazy of an idea, but it makes it even more weird that it's just other planets.
But that's kind of why I like it, because it's so dumb and it's so absurd. I mean, you've written here in your talking point, somehow the sociopolitics of Duckworld are exactly the same, except that they're ducks.
Which is a pretty serious criticism, I would say.
Yeah, but I just love that because it's dumb. You're right, it is, but that's what makes it so bad. It's good, and if they lent more into that, I'd be fine with that. Because I do think if we spent some time on Duckworld and it was and we had more things like Play Duck. It's just more shitty references to ducks. I kind of would have liked it more than the movie we got. But yeah, we can't stay on Duckworld, can we, Michael? Because we've got to get to Cleveland, and this is my next talking point.
Yes. Upon arriving in, let's try again. Hey Pete, party over here. Cleveland! I don't know, whatever. Howard encounters a woman being attacked by thugs, whom he defeats using Quack Fu. The woman, Beverly Switzler, takes Howard to her apartment and lets him spend the night. An early proposed storyline involved the character being transported to Hawaii. Hoik stated this storyline was considered because we thought it would be sort of fun to shoot there, but then they realized it would be even more fun to shoot in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, that's an Adam Sandler mentality right there.
I know. To be fair, I also feel like maybe in a way this film would make more sense in Hawaii. Hawaii seems like a more kind of crazy place than
Cleveland. But also, the question is why Cleveland?
That is the question.
Well, yeah, the comic book, Howard the Duck in the comic book actually does live in Cleveland or does go to Cleveland, so that's why they didn't just pick a random US city. But why did the creator choose Cleveland? Because maybe it is the most depressing place in the United States. If you were to have an existential crisis, maybe it would be in Cleveland. Because I genuinely think that's why Howard the Duck ended up in Cleveland. He can't end up in anywhere fun like LA or New York or Hawaii. Yeah, he has to end up in Cleveland. That makes sense for the story, at least in the comic book version. Also, Quack Fu. Quack Fu. It's just so lazy, isn't it? There's no pun there. Like Kung doesn't sound like quack, does it? Quack Fu. I think it's the fakest martial arts since Krav Maga.
Do you know what they never bring up? They never. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Yeah, I like that. You dunked on the Israelis. Good.
Thank you.
I was going to say they should have brought up Nunducks.
Nunducks. Yeah, there you go. See, and that's the issue with this movie. If they would just put a bit more effort,
just a tiny bit more effort,
it would have been a lot better. Leah Thompson, of course, plays Beverly Switzler, who is Howard's girlfriend in the comics and is kind of his girlfriend in this movie, although not really. Guess which movie? Well, you should know. What movie was Leah Thompson in just prior to Howard the Duck?
Oh fuck. Like just prior. Are we talking still in 86 or?
In 85.
85. Leah Thompson. Oh, was it like? Was it one of those Howard Hughes movies?
No, it was not Ferris Bueller's Day Off or.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was like. No. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Tell me.
Maybe the most famous movie apart from Star Wars, the most famous movie from the 80s.
The most famous movie from the 80s, apart from Star Wars, Back to the Future.
Yes, okay, there you go.
Got it, yeah.
She was in Back to the Future, and then a year later she's in Howard the Duck, which I just love. There you go.
You could say Quack to the Future.
Perfect. Yeah. Maybe I guess you couldn't reference Back to the Future after it just come out. A year prior. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I was just thinking, what if Howard was from the future, and he was transported back in time, and therefore he says, I need to go back to the future. And then someone says, don't you mean Quack to the future? And then there you go. Yeah. That's one of the best jokes in the movie right there. So let's get on to Michael. Well, you said before you had a story to tell, didn't you, about Howard the Duck and Marvel and its creator and all of that. So would you get into that, please?
Yes, yeah. It's actually it's a reasonably quick story, but I remember hearing it, and it was the only thing I knew about Howard the Duck until having watched this movie. So basically, the creator, Steve Gerber, had I guess, creative differences with Marvel. So obviously he created the character for Marvel, and then because of these differences and this kind of just corporate beef, he decided to leave the company and he moved to, I believe, Image is the company he was then working for, and he came up with a character called Destroyer Duck, which is basically the same character but different. It was just like, well, I guess he loved ducks. Anyway, so basically what happens is Marvel at some point comes to him and just says, hey, I know we've had our differences, but would it be okay for you if you came over and wrote a Howard the Duck story for us? Because I get maybe Howard the Duck just wasn't doing numbers. Now, like, we need the original creator with that spark to come and help us out. It's like, can you come and do a crossover for us? And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do a Destroyer Duck meets Howard the Duck crossover. And he stipulated that it would be published both by Image and by Marvel. Now, in the Marvel version, basically what happens is that there's a bit at the end where a whole load of Howard the Duck clones get created by, some nonsense. I think the bad guy's called the Elf with the Gun. That's his name. He's an elf and he has a gun. But yeah, basically, for some reason, he creates a load of Howard the Duck clones. And in the Marvel version, Destroyer Duck just leaves and who cares, whatever. Then, in the Image comic version, Destroyer the Duck leaves with Howard the Duck with him, and he's like, oh, we just left one of the clones over in that other, because obviously the point is they're like traveling to different universes, as I guess most of these crossover stories end up being. It's like, oh, we just left a clone in that original universe, here's this guy, and they bring him, and then there's like a little plot where he just decides to change his name to Leonard the Duck. But this Steve Gerber guy, he basically gets the last laugh over Marvel by making it so that he does this crossover where canonically they're left with this clone of the original character. He steals the original character and then he goes into witness protection or something, changes his name, because obviously then they have to deal with all the proper drama of it all. But technically speaking, albeit not legally, Steve Gerber stole Howard the Duck from Marvel. And I think that's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, no, I think it is interesting because you would suspect, well, normally it would be the other way around, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Usually Marvel steals from creative. Usually the big corporation. Let's not blame Marvel. Usually let's blame capitalism. The big corporation steals from the creative person.
Yeah.
But he turned the tables on them, and that's pretty heroic. And I almost think nowadays with Marvel, I mean, I guess this is a sore spot for them, but with them going all crazy with the universes and stuff. Maybe they could get all meta with it and start using their alternative universes to steal from people and get their revenge.
Well, yeah. The problem with that, and I know you're kind of joking, but they already have a meta character in Deadpool. So they already have a wall breaking, not just wall breaking, fourth wall breaking character with Deadpool, which kind of fulfills Howard the Duck's role, and also
they do have a wall breaking character in Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Deadpool actually does know martial arts, not just fucking quack fu. So yeah, that makes him more viable as a character in a superhero movie. And yeah, of course, Deadpool is going to be in the MCU. As you read in your leak
stars, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. Sadly, no Howard the Duck. Sadly, yeah. But to be fair, Marvel is doing a lot of multiverse stuff, so if Howard did come from a different universe, as you suggested, it would be better. Maybe, yeah. One day we will see Howard the Duck. He could be in Loki season 3. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Well, he was at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy in a
yes,
thingy.
But I mean the actual character.
No,
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. One day. So let's get back to the movie. My next talking point now, which is about Howard just giving up. Yeah.
Yes, giving up. The following day, Beverly takes Howard to Phil Blumbert, a scientist who Beverly hopes can help Howard return to his world. After Phil is revealed to be only a lab assistant, Howard resigns himself to life on Earth and rejects Beverly's aid. He gets a job as a janitor at a romance spa, but eventually quits. Yes, this was, so, I mean, obviously this is the moment that we're the most enthused by because it's funny, and also there's tits. Are there tits? I can't really remember how many ladies we actually see in the spa itself.
No, I don't think there are any tits. There are duck tits, which we will get onto.
Duck tits.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love, after one day, Howard resigns himself to life on Earth. And it's just like, well, I guess I better get a job. Again, it's Reagan's America. You can't just live off the state. You got to get a job right away, even if you have just come here from another planet millions of light years away.
He's an illegal alien.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he gets a job in a brothel or a romance spa, as Wikipedia puts it. And yeah, it's just so funny. Like I put in my notes, whoever wrote this just didn't give a shit. And I think that is accurate. Like scenes like this, it's just what the fuck am I watching? But that's why it's so good because it's so entertaining and it is absurd. But again, that works because of the premise. So yeah, I do kind of love it. I was liking the movie at this stage, but like I said before, it does go downhill. So yeah, I just isn't it insane that Howard quits like trying to get back to his planet after one day and gets a job? That's great. Whoever wrote that, bravo, you nailed that.
No, yeah, exactly, and that's absolutely. I to be honest, like I actually feel on some level, if you were just transported to another planet, you'd just be like, well, this is above my pay grade. But working at a strip club, that's not. I know what I'm gonna do. No, so yeah, but yeah, obviously it is still the most entertaining stuff, and that's the important thing.
Yes, and you are now going to get into well, we talked a bit about how this movie is sort of aimed at kids, but it's sort of not. So you want to talk about how this movie is a weirdly adult movie.
Yes. At the club where Beverly is performing, Howard confronts her manager. A fight breaks out, which Howard wins. Howard rejoins Beverly and accompanies her back to her apartment. The two flirt and get into bed. Kat states that some viewers were confused by the sexual elements of the screenplay, as they were unsure as to whether the film was intended for adults or children. Yes, so obviously the main moment that really kind of has you doing the double take is when you see those hot, sexy duck titties. That was, I mean, obviously, I've enjoyed a duck breast before, but that's usually at a Chinese restaurant. Yes. So obviously, this thing it doesn't bother me personally because I can handle seeing a boob, but it does leave me thinking, who on earth is this movie for? And I think we sort of covered a lot of the groundwork of the sociopolitics and the wider media landscape with, mentioning just the fact that the 80s was just a very sexy time. And also, Indiana Jones and things like that. But yeah, it's weird because you would think, was this movie like PG-13? Can you have just... But I guess it's because they're fake boobs, so that's fine. But
yeah, it's surely the fact
duck. That they're working. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but then also the fact he's working at a strip club. Like, I'd actually be interested to know what the what's it called, like MPMA or whatever is the thing they have in America that rates. I'd be interested to know what the rating was for this movie because you'd think, based on some of the stuff in it. I mean, I would say you personally shouldn't take a kid to watch this, which is unfortunate because a kid who has no concept of quality is probably the only person who could possibly enjoy this movie taken in its entirety.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the rating was. I can't find it on Wikipedia, unfortunately. No. But yeah, so the weird adult stuff or weird sex stuff. Yeah, I mean, the play duck in the first 5 minutes is just insane. Like, it's just it's insane, but it's quite funny at the same time, which is why I like all this weird adult stuff. It's what makes this movie entertaining. Of course, in the first half, and. Again, like we've said before, I think it is kind of meant for adults, but it's kind of meant for kids as well. And yeah, in the 80s, you have a comic book movie with an anthropomorphic duck, and I just don't think anyone would think, oh yeah, that kind of movie is for adults. It just wasn't normal back then. You pitch that in the 80s, and it sounds like a kids' film. So therefore, we're going to make it a kids' movie, even though, of course, the Howard the Duck character, I guess, is. Or in the comic books, it's more aimed at adults, I assume, just because of the content, which we'll get onto next when I talk about the tone of this movie compared to the comic book. But yeah, it just is more kid-like than you would assume, and I think also Leah Thompson, her performance plays into that because she is acting like she's in a kids movie throughout the entire film. There's a bit
of like a Jinkies energy to it. She's like. Oh yeah. Okay, Howard, we got to do this now, quick.
Yeah. She's acting like a bunch of 10-year-olds are watching this movie instead of again, given the content of the comic book, you'd think it and some of the content of the movie. Yeah, you think the target demographic would be older, but yeah, again, it's just this is what you get with George Lucas, and it is fun in some instances because of how weird it is. But yeah, if they just lent into it being weirder and more adult. I think it would have been a better movie, but also at the same time, less bad it's good. If you understand what I mean by that.
No, yeah, I do understand. Like ultimately, in a way, like where this film's at, a slight improvement would kind of just rob it of the entertainment value of it being worse.
Yeah, but also it would have
Yes.
been a better movie perhaps as well at the same
No, yeah.
time. So there you go, pick your poison perhaps. So let's also now talk about the Tome 2, which was also quite weird as well.
Yes, absolutely. During the writing process, an emphasis was placed on special effects rather than satire or narrative. The tone of the film is in diametric opposition to the comics, which Gerber described as an existential joke. There is no joke. There it is. The cosmic giggle. The funniest gag
So
in
this
the
is
universe.
Gerber.
Sorry, maybe I should give him a voice. Sorry, yeah, that's right. There is no joke. There it is. The cosmic giggle. The funniest gag in the universe. Life's serious moments and dumb moments are often indistinguishable. Anyone who doesn't believe this probably cannot enjoy reading Howard the Duck. On the film's approach to the source material, Katz said, "It's a film about a duck from outer space. It's not supposed to be an existential experience. We're supposed to have fun with this concept, but for some reason, reviewers weren't able to get over that problem."
Yeah.
So, am I right to understand that basically with Gerber, he's basically saying the point is that it's played, like the comic itself tonally is played seriously, which is rendered comedic by the inherent absurdity of it being about a duck.
Yes, I suppose so. Yes, I guess it's more of a satire in the comic book.
Yes.
And yeah, it doesn't have many fun, dumb moments, basically.
Okay.
but this movie has a lot of fun, dumb moments because Katz, who clearly, I don't want to hate on the guy, but is it a woman? I'm not sure. It is Gloria Katz. Yes. So you should have done a female voice for that, Michael. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was my female voice.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. But so yeah, Gloria Katz just didn't get the comic book because again, this is what I've been saying. She is a product of the 80s. She's looks at this duck from outer space in a comic book movie, and well, obviously it's got to be stupid. Obviously it's got to be aimed at kids. And I think you would get the complete opposite attitude today if somebody tried to write a Howard the Duck movie, because I think this movie, it is set up to be more of an adult movie, more of a satire because of the character, but then of course we have these fun / dumb elements which again do make the movie entertaining at times, but as we said before, it's good that we're having fun with it because at least in the first half I was having fun with it, but it doesn't make for a good movie, and the tone, it's just very very off from what it should be. But this was the 80s, so this was always going to happen, Michael.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like they just didn't know. I don't know. They didn't know how to be human beings in the 80s. They were very strange people. That's why American Psycho was made. They'd enjoy this movie.
Yeah, no, Well, think about when American Psycho was released. Of course, it was 1999, and it's a completely different movie to this. But it's a good point you make because people didn't understand the satire. Audiences, reviewers, they didn't understand it. But as we know today, I think it's a beloved movie. People really like it. Beloved is the wrong word, but people admire it. And I think if that American Psycho was released 20 years later, in the late 2010s or even now, nobody would get confused about, oh, is this a satire? Yes, obviously it's a satire. Reviewers would not get confused. Like I said before, this goes to my theory that movies nowadays are just more experimental or can be more out there, if you get what I mean, compared to the 90s and certainly the 80s, as we see from this movie.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've made leaps and bounds. But I tell you where we definitely not made leaps and bounds is special effects. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah,
so this is my next talking point, and you're going to go into the special effects / costume of Howard the Duck, and this is a quite a long paragraph for you.
Okay. Howard and Beverly are visited by Phil and two of his colleagues, who reveal that a laser spectroscope was aimed at Howard's planet and transported him to Earth. Once at the laboratory, the laser malfunctions. The police then show up and Howard is arrested.
Yeah, the reason, by the way, I put the special effects costume talking point here is because, of course, we see Howard stripped down and we see the great, the costume without the clothes, and it just looks really shit. But yeah.
Yes, this is a good point. Yes, I do remember that scene of it. Anyway, Howard was at first intended to be a computerized character, but these attempts were unsuccessful. The idea of puppeteering Howard was explored, but an actor would need a suit to portray him for much of the film. Lucasfilm built animatronic suits, costumes, and puppets, but because of the limited prep time, the varied ducks created would explode or lose feathers, and multiple ducks were built with the wrong proportions.
Sorry, don't you just think that would be very funny, just seeing the duck puppets explode all over
This
the
is
place.
it's one of those things that makes you think about, like, like Five Nights at Freddy's and the whole thing of like animatronic demon possessed things, like that whole like genre of horror. I feel like
Yeah.
there could be an absolute, you just have like these exploded balding ducks just attacking you with
Yes.
wrong proportions, real uncanny valley. The opening sequence, in which Howard is propelled out of his apartment, used wires that were later digitally erased by a computer. This was the first use of this technique, which became popular and was used in films such as Back to the Future Part 2, Terminator 2, and The Matrix. The effect of the feathers on Howard's head becoming erect during the love scene took months to prepare. Okay, good. I'm glad we end on that, and they had their focus in the right place. No, yeah, obviously.
Do you remember that, by the way, in the movie? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, that was good stuff.
Was it worth it? Months to prepare for that?
I think it's like that shot cost $1 billion.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I'll never forget
the.
I'll never forget the erect feathers scene.
Yes.
But I do like how this movie, it was historic. Back to the Future Part 2, Terminator 2, and The Matrix all can look at this movie and say our movies were successful because of Howard the Duck, and I think there is something beautiful in that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, the Howard the Duck costume I don't think is that bad because, like I said before, he is often wearing clothes, so you can't actually see it, so you can cover it up a bit. Apart from right at the end of the movie, when he's on that stage, and then the credits are rolling. You remember that when he's playing at the guitar, and you see the full costume. It's like, oh yeah, that looks really shit. So yeah, I think they did a good job most of the movie basically covering it up. And yeah, it sounds like a nightmare. All the duck costumes blowing up. Yeah, sounds very funny, but also very difficult.
No, yeah, absolutely. And see, for me personally, I did kind of feel like Howard the Duck looked just a little bit kind of terrifying. But I guess I was able to. I'm a big boy. I was able to get over it. Ultimately, I suppose.
That's good.
Yeah. Eventually, after a while. No, yeah. I mean, to us, I don't think he actually looked like terrifying. I would say he looked ugly, and that's the thing. This movie, it reminds me of the Super Mario movie in that it has that same like grimy, gross quality to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it's kind of a similar, like, and especially when you look at like Duck World itself, like Duck World seemed like very kind of just grimy and gross. And then the costume, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like gross exactly, but it just kind of looks like very like cheap and
that's why I think it's. And that's why I think it's good that he was wearing clothes all the time, so you couldn't really see how cheap it looked. But yeah, so let's get on to something else that looked cheap, which was the demon villain. And this is your next talking point because we get a villain introduced halfway through this movie, and I think this is where the film starts to go downhill.
Yeah, I will say though, I mean, you say that it looked cheap and gross. I thought the costume was actually incredibly realistic. I genuinely thought it was a real life sex offender they were hanging out with.
Aha.
Anyway.
I was referring to the CGI, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, let's talk about the demon villain. Dr. Walter Jennings is possessed by a life form from a distant region of space. When they visit a diner, the creature introduces himself as a dark overlord, or dark overlord of the universe, and shows off his mental powers. A fight ensues when a group of truckers insult Howard. The dark overlord destroys the diner and escapes with Beverly. Okay, so when this was first introduced, I thought to myself, actually, this could be a good thing. Because I'm not going to pretend or like deny that there would have been some value in, obviously seeing him just negotiate the real world as it is and, all that kind of stuff. But I guess ultimately I knew at some point it was going to have to be some sort of more fantastical stakes. And I was thinking, okay, like some kind of Lovecraftian cosmic demon from the outer reaches of the universe. This could be interesting. And the first sign of things going wrong is, firstly, it doesn't make any sense that they don't believe him. Like when he's like, I've been possessed by a demon, and he's just been hit with a space laser. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever you say. Like, it just makes no sense that they don't believe him. And then when they do believe him, like, yeah, he's a demon, for some reason, they're just like completely casual about it. Like, okay, you're a demon, cool. And he's even like, when he's getting beaten up by the truckers, he's like calling out to the demon to help him. And I'm like, that kind of, it very much neuters, like you imagine obviously any kind of, I'm just thinking about like Harry Potter and Voldemort, but obviously any kind of fantastical villain. If like there was a scene where Harry was getting bullied and he was like, Voldemort, help me. Like it very much undercuts him as a threat. And
yeah, but
that's the problem.
That would be fine because this isn't a serious movie. Well,
Oh,
it
yeah.
shouldn't be. I say it isn't a serious movie. It shouldn't be a serious movie. But again, the second half is all very serious. And you're right. Again, it does make no sense that they wouldn't believe him. But you could, if this movie was an absurdist comedy, more of an
Yes.
absurdist comedy, then these scenes would make sense. Of like, oh yeah, I'm a duck that's been transported to another world. But obviously, you're not a demon villain. Obviously, that's just stupid. But the tone of the movie here, again, especially in the second part, is just off. So yeah, it does seem just ridiculous and eye rolling in this diner scene, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we're going to get on to the next section, which you've titled your next talking point, Michael. You've titled this "Ducks on a Plane," referencing,
Yes.
of course, snakes on a plane, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was. I kind of wanted to. Sometimes I feel like I should be a bit more creative with my titles, so I was like,
That was good.
I mean, yeah, there we go. And of course, it on a meta level it works because, as we know, this film taught us that's the funniest thing you can possibly do. Howard locates Phil, and they discover an ultralight aircraft which they use to search for the Dark Overlord and Beverly. At the laboratory, the Dark Overlord plans to transfer another of his kind into Beverly's body with the Dimension Machine. Now, I made a joke here, which I thought we would also really enjoy. I said, Howard the Duck, more like Howard Hughes, because, of course, that's the character,
Yeah.
the fictional character in the fictional movie The Aviator.
Yeah, that was
Anyway.
good. Yeah, a
Yeah,
much better
it's-
movie than this one.
Yeah, they call it the Spruce Goose.
Isn't
Anyway,
it the Spruce Moose.
no, but I think it's... Is it something different? Okay, because in the Simpsons episode, they like parody like the Howard Hughes with Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Is it called something different in one of those? Oh, I don't remember.
So
who cares?
you said Spruce Goose. Maybe it is the. I thought it was.
I think it was
Spruce-
originally the Spruce Goose, and in the Simpsons episode, it might have been called the Spruce Moose.
Okay, that's what I'm referencing then. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Anyway, so basically, I decided, I thought, let's stretch myself to some sort of compliment of this film. I mean, obviously, we kind of been complimenting it in the first half, but, complimenting this film as I suppose what it was ultimately going to attempt to be, which is, of course, this kind of fantastical, more fantasy adventure, and indeed action adventure movie. And with that said, I guess I kind of liked the fact that they found this plane just because it's slightly more interesting than if they found a car. Like, I had the briefest second when they were like, oh no, we've got to catch the Dark Overlord. Oh, what are we going to do? And then they find a plane. I had a slight moment of, oh, like it was just the slightest twinge of, oh, that's kind of not what I was expecting, and potentially a little bit more exciting than them finding a car.
Yeah.
And also, I guess it's really funny that he's a duck and they can't fly, but he flies with a plane. So
Yeah. I'm
good.
guessing that's a big thing in the comics. The fact that Howard can't fly, and also that Howard can't swim either. I'm guessing.
Oh
that's
yeah, I forgot he couldn't swim.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
obviously, yeah, that's a joke.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's referenced quite a lot. So yeah, I guess it is kind of a neat idea that he's on a plane. So yeah, he's flying, and yeah, it's not an awful moment in the movie, but I don't think I liked it as much as you, to be honest. Because obviously,
It was my highlight.
I don't know, just a bunch of stupid shit happens, and it's like, yeah, of course, yeah. Like again, goes back to what I said before. It does remind me of a lot of 80s/90s movies that are aimed at kids. These kind of
Yeah.
scenes happen. There's not a lot of these scenes where there's a duck piloting a plane, but it's the same kind of tone, if you get me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about now with my last talking point, Howard's character / the ending of the movie, what he does for Howard at the end. So yeah, if you will, Michael.
Howard and Phil arrive and seemingly destroy the Dark Overlord with a neutron disintegrator. But the creature is merely forced out of Jennings' body and attacks them in its true form. Howard fires the neutron disintegrator. Did I say... Oh, I think I said degenerate or whatever, who gives a shit? At the beast, obliterating him. Early on in production, it was decided that the personality of the character would be changed from that of the comics, in which Howard was rude and obnoxious, to make the character nicer. I mean, he's a real hero.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. I think he is quite rude at times in the movie, and he is quite pissed off, which again I find funny. But maybe he was even more pissed off and even more rude, or even more, depressed in the comic books. I'm not quite sure. But at the end of the movie, he just becomes the standard 80s hero. He sacrifices
Yeah.
himself. He saves the day. You know, he's like, we gotta save Beverly. You know, he doesn't care about going back to his homeworld. His main motivation is I gotta save this girl that I know. It's very different from the comic book version of Howard the Duck, from what I can gather, especially at the end of the movie, which is partly why I think the ending isn't that good at all and is quite boring.
Yes.
So yeah. Anything to say on that, or should we get on to the ending? The actual ending.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably him being a little bit more obnoxious would work. But the thing is, obviously, that would require the movie, I think, to be more funny, like, because that's the problem. Obviously, this film is quite lazy with the comedy, so if you then combine that with him just being like obnoxious and like the movie thinks it's funny, that would get very annoying. Like, it'd just be one of those things where he's just like constantly making like quips and stuff and just like, shut the fuck up, Howard.
Well, so that's why this movie, if it were to work and be an actual good movie, it would have to be smarter, it would have to be satirical, and and therefore Howard could be more like the character he is in the comic books. But yeah, they didn't go down that path, as we've said before, and we've given the reasons why. So yeah, let's get on to the ending now, Michael.
Yes. Howard destroys the laser spectroscope, preventing more Dark Overlords from arriving on Earth. But at the cost of his only chance of returning to Duckworld, Howard becomes Beverly's manager, hires Phil as an employee on her tour, and performs with her on stage. Hoyk and Katz wrote the ending, leaving the story open for a sequel, which was never produced. I really wanted to say a squeakquel, but then I realized ducks don't really squeak, so it doesn't really work. Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately, it's a beautiful... Having said that, I mean, you know, presumably the knowledge to create this laser thing, it hasn't been lost forever, but you know, obviously it would take a while. I guess we're just to infer in that time that he's going to have so much fun being a manager. It's honestly, like, the two aspects of this film are complete loggerheads. The fact that it's like him being a manager of this kind of punk girl group, and also fighting interstellar demons.
Yeah, but I guess you could make an absurdist movie. But because it sounds like a stupid concept, and again in the 80s they just were like, what the fuck is that? No, but I think it's so absurd it could work as a concept. But I just want to say, it is a very 1980s ending. You know, it's hopeful and happy and not nihilistic or sad. You know, it doesn't end with Howard looking up at the sky and he's like, well, I guess I'm never going to go home, in his nasally voice. And to be fair, I think his voice actually works for... I'll compliment...
His voice does work for the character, yeah.
Yeah, I'll compliment the movie. I think the voice does work for the character. So there you go. We waited right to the end to say that. But yeah, now he's just jamming out with Beverly on stage. And he's not nihilistic, because that would be too depressing. And so, yeah, it gave me Back to the Future vibes with, Marty... at the end of that movie, which of course came out just a year earlier. Up on stage. And so, yeah, I'd say it's unfortunate, but yeah, this it's just such a horrendous end to the movie. It's just such a bad ending for such a bad second half in particular. And yeah, like I said, very, very 1980s. So Michael, let us now conclude on Howard the Duck. You go first.
Yes, so basically, ultimately taking this movie as a whole, it does just end up boring, which is a shame, considering how crazy the idea sounds. It's one of those things where this is kind of... You hear about these stupid things in comic books, and I think sometimes, if you're naive enough... Well, no, sometimes this is actually not naivete. You think, oh, that sounds like really crazy... Therefore, it must actually be quite good and quite interesting. A lot of time, comics do have these crazy elements in it. But like, actually, you know what? It works out in this quite entertaining way. And certainly, I mean, we've seen with the MCU sometimes, like Guardians of the Galaxy, things like that, and the more absurd stories can actually end up being the more entertaining ones. The problem with this movie is that you'd think, oh yeah, okay, in that case, they're going to do like something's going to surprise me about this duck movie, like it's going to be heartfelt or something like that. I think honestly, playing it very seriously probably would have been the funnier joke, and I think like that actually is maybe the winning strategy. Like you just have this duck be kind of very melodramatic and serious, but in a way where it's just rendered funny, not because the movie's trying to be funny, but just because of the fact that it is a duck having all of these emotions. That's probably, I think, the best strategy. As it is, the main issue is it just tries to be these two things at once, on two counts, which is first of all the plot. It's like, oh, it's a duck adjusting to the real world, but then it's not the real world because it's the demons from outer space. And then also the weird thing of the tone, which technically doesn't bother me, again, because I am an adult, but just bothers me, and it makes it clear how little focus this movie has. Ultimately, I'm going to give this, quite a boring movie that I really wouldn't ever want to watch again, I'm actually going to give it a middling 2. I think that, personally, I did find this movie pretty challenging to get through and quite draining in a way, because I was just like, oh my god, there's so much bullshit, and it definitely gets worse, and that's the worst thing, because obviously if a movie ends bad, it's like, okay, it might have been good at the beginning, but by the end of it I'm just like, ugh. So no good.
So yeah, my conclusion is audiences and writers weren't ready for less generic genres in the 1980s. So yeah, therefore this movie was always going to be too boring. Contrasting it to the comic book. It's a crazy idea. The whole Howard the Duck story, and if the writers were a bit more creative and they were allowed to be less formulaic, perhaps it could have worked. I do think it could have worked, and it's only entertaining because of how bad it is. But that's just in the first half. Again, the lack of effort makes it entertaining. How just shit it is in general makes it entertaining. But then we get into the plots in the second half. Yeah, that's when it gets so bad, it's bad. And there's nothing fun, there's nothing entertaining. And yeah, you're right. If this movie was completely different and took on a completely different tone, I think there's potential there. But of course, George Lucas, the writers, Universal did not decide to go down that path. Like we said, because this was they were confined by their era as much as anything, I think. So yeah, for the first half, I think it was like a 4 out of 10. That's what I'm thinking. It was obviously bad, but somewhat enjoyable. But then the second half is not enjoyable at all. It's like a 1 out of 10. So I guess that's like a 2.5, Michael. I think that would be fair. Which is what you gave it as well, didn't you?
Yeah, middling 2, yeah.
Yeah. So, Michael, now it is time to go over we've got some receipts, of course, to go over. We're in summer blockbuster season, aren't we? The Odyssey has been released. We predicted what it would get on Rotten Tomatoes. You thought The Odyssey would get 84 on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it'd get 87. It is, in fact, on 94 right now. So that means that you get 10 points added to your score. I get 7 points, which means you're on 42 and I'm on 43. So
this is getting exciting.
Yeah, lower is better, of course. So that means you're winning by 1. And of course now it's time to predict what Spider-Man Brand New Day will get on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay,
that's why we're reviewing Howard the Duck, the next Marvel movie, also starring Tom Holland, of course. So, Michael, have you got a number for Spider-Man Brand New Day in your head?
Yes.
Okay, right, so have I. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, right. 3, 2, 1, 89.
92.
Okay, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, 92. Damn, that's high.
I was actually thinking of going for 90.
Yeah.
Because and if I would have gone for 90, that would have been really funny, because it would basically meant no matter what happened, we just end up drawing. But now, there's a little bit more stakes. Well, sorry, no matter what, it would mean the worst case scenario would be a draw. But I thought let's go for 92. Just, it always feels boring going for a what's it called number, a round number.
Yeah. So we've only got a couple more predictions left on the schedule, by the way.
Okay.
But, so we've had two predictions in a row, and they're going to dry up now. But let's see what how well Spider-Man Brand New Day does. But Michael, what are we looking at next time?
Well, of course, it's been a while, but we're returning to August by looking at another, let's say, adult movie, and that is Behind the Green Door, and that is why are we looking at that? Do I know?
It's because it's not its anniversary, but the fucking Behind the Green Door thing, which the movie is based on, came out in 1956. So it's a very loose reason why we're reviewing it. But Behind the Green Door, we're back to August, as you said. So join us for that next time. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.